I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this abortion activist, and she is like one of the most extreme activists, defending a singer. We watched her video last week, but there was a singer who I don't know the singer, but she said that she had 5 abortions. She was on a podcast, and the person who she was interviewing her in the podcast also said that she had 5 abortions as well. So there's been talk about that, and people who are even pro-choice were horrified about that. So the activist, responded and said, "I'm really disappointed that there's people not defending their rights to get abortion and their right to get as many as they want." Essentially is what she's saying, because bodily autonomy is, the thing that they have to stick up for. However, when I hear activists say things like that, I'm always curious, did they stand up for bodily autonomy during the pandemic? I'm always curious, if you are a raging pro-abortion fanatic screaming about bodily autonomy, then how did you feel about vaccine mandates, mask mandates, all that stuff? Very curious. And I did find some tweets. So we're going to go over some tweets that I found. Also, in that conversation that we had last week, I had mentioned something about a dislike that I have of like the pro-life movement and how they'll usually try to put too much blame on the men and like totally like take it off the woman. And lo and behold, I saw a video today with an example of live action doing that. And I love live action. I very much respect what they do. Lila Rose and her organization. I'm mutuals with this live action account actually on TikTok. I met some of these girls that were associated with live action, have done content for them, at different events. And I think they're great girls. But I if you watch the video, I don't know how you could just watch the video and be like, yeah, men are the problem. Like, men are the problem. Men are definitely the problem, but I don't understand how the focus totally gets taken off of what a woman decides to do. And I want to show you guys also a meme that caused some controversy, but the topics will basically be around, well, the stories or the things that we'll discuss will basically be about this topic today. I know there's a lot of things going on in the world, but this is a thing that interests me, obviously, that's important to me, and I think these conversations are interesting. So that will be the show. Just want to FYI. But before we jump into everything, Kit Kat, you're not late, or not that late. I just kind of started, so thank you for coming. Before I jump into everything, I encourage you guys to go to blackteanews.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, you guys can leave a donation at blackteanews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream, run my site, all the good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can also do super chats if you're watching on Facebook. You guys can do stars if you're watching on Facebook. You guys can also support by going to the website and looking at different merchandise. Funny thing today, let me start off with this story as we're talking about the merch. So today I went, in the morning, I like to go work out. I'm trying to drop some pounds, and so I went out working out, and then before I got home, or before I start off the rest of my day or whatever, I wanted to go pop in the store really quick to see if they had any dresses that I might want to wear to the event on Friday. So I went in the store that I go to all the time. One of the managers I recognize, and so she's like, "You need help?" And I was like, "Oh, well, she's like, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "I'm looking for a dress for an event. It's going to be outside." And so she takes me to the section where most of the dresses are. and says, let me know if you need anything. So I start looking through the dresses and stuff, and then I turn, and then I notice that there's a man who's a Tim, a trans identifying male, looking at me. It was kind of like the Weird Al song when he did Trapped in the Cupboard, or no, I think it was Trapped in the Drive-Thru. Trapped in the Cupboard, I think, was Mad TV. But like Trapped in the Drive-Thru is like, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I looked at him. And it was a little awkward. And I didn't know if he worked there or what. And I just never seen him before. And so he starts coming over and he's like, can I help you find anything? Do you need any help? I was like, oh no, she told me like where the dresses were. And it was just really weird. He was looking at me weird, and I didn't know what was it about. And I'm just like, am I looking at him? I know there's like the weird back and forth, but I'm smiling and I'm just like, oh no, she told me where the dresses and stuff are. And he's like, okay, well, if you need a dressing room, just let me know. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna, be trying on anything because I was just working out and stuff. So I'm kind of sweaty and stuff. So I don't want to like try on anything. I'm just looking. And so he's just still like looking at me strange. I'm getting like these weird vibes or whatever. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I didn't call him sir. I didn't call him he, him, you know. So I'm just like, what is it going on? So I leave out the store, and then I realize I'm wearing one of these shirts. I'm wearing one of these shirts that says XX Club or Club XX lifetime membership. And I'm wearing the one that's in yellow right there, but mine is pink. And I don't even usually wear it out, but I had a pink pair of capri like workout pants, and I didn't have much to match with it. So I was just like, oh, maybe that's why I was getting the looks. Maybe that's why. So I don't know, but hey, truth is the truth. But there's all kinds of merchandise you guys can get at blacktnews.com. Yeah. Anyway. Anyway, let's start off with the content. So I have to, if you guys have watched me regularly or watched me last week, I think it was Friday that we talked about this story, then you've probably seen this clip that I'm going to play you. I think the actress's name is not actress. I think it's a singer named Lily Allen, maybe. I'm unfamiliar with her. I only know her. I swear I've only seen her because of this viral moment. Lily Allen is her name, and she's a British singer. So yeah, I don't know a lot of British singers unless you're like Adele or something. Um, you know. So she talked about the abortions that she had, and there's a lot that she had. So I'm going to go ahead and just replay this clip again, in case you didn't see it, but the context for the rest of the conversation is important. So
abortions, I've had a few, but then again, I can't remember exactly how many.
What, really?
Yeah.
Why didn't this come up in last week's episode where we were just talking about abortions?
Because I was just letting you run with it.
Reveal everything.
I can't remember. Yeah, I think maybe like, I want to say 4 or 5.
Yeah, I've had about 5 too. Lily, I'm so happy I can say that, and you can say it, and no one came to shoot us down.
Yeah, so that's the clip that went pretty viral in pro-life circles and stuff. But not only pro-life people were upset with that. There are pro-choice people who feel like women get, abortions because, they're in bad situations, or not even like really bad situations, maybe stressful situation. They feel like they can't have the kid for whatever, and they make the best decision possible for them at the moment. But I think it's just like an honor system. Like when they say trust the woman, it should be the woman's choice. They assume that, again, it's an honor system, and they're not just abusing the right to have an abortion and aborting 5 kids or more. Which, by the way, I heard this line before, but I saw this video today again on TikTok. There's a woman, she said, there was that her dad dated somebody who had 16 abortions, and they were mad at her, I think because she I don't know, wouldn't get a COVID shot or something like that. And she's like, ma'am, you're a serial killer. Like, what are you talking to me for? And yeah, there's just some people have crazy numbers of abortions. And so there's people who are pro-choice, but maybe they're like more ambivalent on the issue, and don't really care a lot, but they just want it to be legal. They're horrified when they hear something like that, because a lot of people will acknowledge that they do think it is killing a child. They just think that people would have a very good reason to do that. And I think you probably didn't have good enough reasons 4 or 5 times is what they're thinking. I assume. So there's abortion activist Jessica Valenti who commented on this. So I wanted to play you the Lily Allen video so you could see her response to it. This video is like a minute and 24 seconds, so not too long.
I gotta say, it has been so disappointing to see some of the responses to this Lily Allen podcast where she talks about having had multiple abortions, and her co-host talks about having had multiple abortions. You expect to see the Fox News headlines, right? Like, no surprise there. But it is so upsetting to see so many responses in comments or people making videos talking about, I believe in abortion rights, but this is too much, or I'm pro-choice, but there is no but. You either support reproductive autonomy or you don't. You support someone's right to bodily integrity or you don't. You believe the government should interfere in people's medical decisions or you don't. There is no but there. And that doesn't mean you can't feel your own personal feelings about a thing. We've all been indoctrinated with a certain level of abortion stigma. And so I have an incredible amount of empathy for that. But when you push that stigma out into the world, when you are making comments, when you are publishing videos, you are contributing to a culture that increasingly hates women and that is increasingly passing laws that kill women. And you're not understanding that what is so central to the conservative agenda when it comes to abortion is advancing this idea that there are good abortion patients and bad abortion patients, acceptable abortions and unacceptable abortions, or acceptable and unacceptable number of abortions, right? And so feel however you want to feel about a thing, but please try to interrogate that feeling and dismantle it rather than pushing it out into the world, because you are making it more dangerous for all of us.
It's abortion every day. Okay. Okay, first thing I want to say is there should be a stigma against killing other human beings. There just should be. And so she's like, these laws are killing women. Women start off as girls, right? And we're little girls in our mother's wombs. So if you care about killing off women, like, why don't you care about killing off people in the womb? Like, so there's questions, inconsistencies, whatever that we have there. Secular Pro-Life did a really good response to this video on their TikTok. I don't know if they posted other places. And she said, in her field, she wants to move the needle of people toward the pro-life movement. So she doesn't like when there's people in the pro-life movement who will say like, oh, well, you don't believe, you support this, exception, so therefore I don't really think you're pro-life, you're pro-choice. She doesn't want to push people to the pro-choice side. She wants to just like when there's disagreement, say, okay, well, we disagree on that, but let's talk about that disagreement, but don't push them off and say like, no, you're not pro-life. And I understand people wanting to gatekeep the title because they don't want people to be misinformed about the movement and the beliefs or whatever. So she's very happy with Jessica here gatekeeping, being pro-choice, saying, no, you have to support people when they decide to have like 4, 5, 16 abortions. There's no good abortions or bad abortions. If someone wants to have an abortion and practice their bodily autonomy, bodily integrity, reproductive rights, whatever you want to call it, if they want to go ahead and abort a child because, they were out of character for a night and had slept with a black guy, and now they don't want a black baby and they go ahead and have an abortion, or they found out the sex of the child and it wasn't what they wanted and they want to go ahead and have an abortion, all kinds of reasons why people might go ahead and have one. Dr. Warren Hearn has had performed sex elective abortions, admitted to that. So women have abortions for all kinds of crazy reasons, not just because they want to finish out college without a distraction, which also is not a good reason to have an abortion. So if you got to support all of that in order to be pro-abortion, secular pro-life is like, go ahead and be radical, because it's just going to push more people to our side, our side, where it's far more reasonable than the position that you are taking. What I thought was interesting, which she's going on, either you support, bodily integrity or you don't, or either you support reproductive, freedom or you don't. Either you support people being able to make choices about their medical decisions or you don't. And I find it funny because I'm always curious when people make those arguments, how they acted during the pandemic. I'm always curious about how they acted during the pandemic. So I started searching last night for some of her tweets. Because I'm like, there must be some tweets saying things like, you know what, people have a right to not get vaccinated if they don't want to get vaccinated. These vaccine passports are trash, and people should be able to not mask if they don't want to mask, and so on. You would think that there'd be like comments like that, but I didn't find anything like that. I didn't find like, off the wall, super crazy stuff like some people had during the pandemic. But there are things like this. How are you all dealing with the boiling rage of seeing someone walk down the street without a mask? Like, if my 9-year-old can deal with it, so can you. What makes these people think they're so bleeping special? How about bodily autonomy? Maybe bodily autonomy makes people feel like they're so freaking special. And if they don't want a mask or whatever, then they don't have to. They shouldn't have to, especially when the masks. I mean, I know people very strongly believe that they worked and stuff back then or whatever, but people were always, there were skeptics about that the whole entire time. Of course, we had elected officials that weren't, being legit about the mask rules, including Anthony Fauci. You can go watch videos prior to the 2020 pandemic and see Anthony Fauci, a video of him. They're asking, like, what if there was a pandemic? Would we have to, I think, shut down and wear masks? And he's like, oh, no, we wouldn't have to do something like that. Like, those things were silly before, until they decided to, I don't know, throw out all those other common sense ideas they had before to just pump fear into everybody, I guess. Here's another one. Wearing a mask is a personal choice, and there is no practical way to enforce a mandate to wear them. She's quoting right there. Says the superintendent of a county where girls are pulled out of class for wearing a skirt that's too short. Implication being there that she thinks they ought to be able to enforce mandates for wearing masks there. So it seems like she's not preaching like people ought to be able to do things what they will with their body, and I understand, because they're concerned that it could cause harm to other people. She's very concerned about her young daughter, who sounds like, from reading different tweets on this matter, that who has like a respiratory issues and a history of that, and she very much wanted to get her child a vaccine, who was too young when it originally had come out. So she was concerned for her child. I get that. And people who are against abortion are concerned about the children who are purposely killed. Purposely. Not you caught something that they had and they might die. You purposely, maliciously, premeditated homicide. Like, people are concerned about that. So I didn't find any like, yeah, your bodily rights, guys, I support it. I didn't find any tweets like this that someone said. She also said, if you're willing to wear a mask a little longer to protect kids under 12 who can't get vaccinated, maybe stop calling yourself pro-life. Well, pro-life means If you go look at the definition, it means that you are against abortion and euthanasia. People are pro-life because they believe in a right to not be killed. We are talking, that doesn't mean people have a right to live forever. That doesn't mean that the pro-life people are against the death penalty or warfare and other things like that. The topic is specifically abortion, but don't make the claim that you are pro bodily integrity. And well, they say integrity to usually to mean like, protecting your internal organs, because they want to basically, make it so strict that they can only include abortion in that. But she also mentioned, medical decisions and whatnot. So I feel like there's no freedom here really when it came to the pandemic on her side. I'm not saying though, you should have the right to not be vaccinated if you don't want to. Here's another one. It feels incredibly cruel that my daughter's health is dependent on bleep holes who refuse to get vaccinated or wear a mask. It also feels very cruel that you believe in the right to kill babies. I'm just going to be legit with you. I can understand her being upset. She was concerned for her child. I get it. There are a lot of, I'm just going to push on the logic though, using some pro-choice logic. Pro-choice people, and I don't, her position just seems to be like, if one wants to do it, they should be able to do it. But a lot of pro-choice folks will say, well, you have to at least be viable to matter, right? If you're not viable, then you're going to die without the mother. Therefore, you don't have bodily autonomy or value or whatever. I don't know. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense because viability, they mean it in the sense that they can survive outside of the womb if they make it out the womb, right? Okay, but viability actually means your ability to survive in your environment. So if people can't survive in a post-COVID world and they're not viable in that environment, you are asking all of these people to take measures to protect the most vulnerable. And we did a lot together as a nation to protect the most vulnerable. There were some people who were against like all the stuff like from RIP, but I think there was a lot of people who were willing to go along with it for a little while. And then they started hearing things trickle that didn't make sense. And then they saw elected officials, like Lori Lightfoot or Kevin Newsom or, Whitmer, who else? Cuomo, like different folks like not adhering to the rules. I'll never forget like Fauci at the game with his mask down, or you saw pictures of like elected officials. They'd all have their mask, and at different times, when it was off camera, they didn't have their mask on, and then they put their mask on to be in front of the crowd for the photo. Or Stacey Abrams made sure to wear. She was in a photo with a bunch of kids who all had to wear masks, but she didn't have to wear a mask. And then she wondered why she lost, or she didn't wonder why she lost. She didn't accept that she lost that election. Right. So once, especially like during the BLM stuff, when people are like, no, all the doctors came out and said, it's too important. You should go out there and protest. Forget it. I know we were on lockdown before, but it's so important. Go ahead and protest for Black lives. That black pilled a lot of people. Now, to me, it didn't make the lockdowns and other things didn't make a lot of sense from RIP. I was always we should, try to shield the very most vulnerable, but everyone else should go out and try to live life, keep the country going, the economy going. And if you get infected, you like try to beat it out, have, create, some people will catch it and they'll get, immunity or whatever after they recover or whatever. But we can't just sit on our butts and be trapped in a house, especially where people are still getting sick at home anyway. So, and there was a Great Barrington Declaration that basically said what I said with other epidemiologists and folks agreeing with like my take of things. So, yeah, this person I couldn't find anything that was like you shouldn't be, mandated to do this stuff. This coercion has to stop. And I maybe I missed some stuff, but I looked. I'll leave the window open for me to be wrong that she was like, no, people should be able to do whatever they want with their bodies. But this is the vibe I got. This is the last one I got. People who deliberately wear their mask wrong on the airplane make me want to fight. Oh, she want to fight people, bro. Even if you put aside science and safety, why the bleep are you so special that you don't have to follow the rules? And again, this is a person who all day, every day advocates for killing the preborn. So, if you're like Evangeline Lilly, I don't know if she's like that pro-abortion or whatever. I think she's like said when the truckers and stuff were out with Canada and they were protesting. There was a big protest that happened in the US, like at the Capitol in DC. And it was like like around the time when I was there for like a right to life. I just rallied, but I couldn't stay an extra couple days to like stay for that. Which I would have thought would have been interesting to go to for sure. But she was out there rallying for people's bodily autonomy. And she said, I believe in people's right to choose. I believe in medical freedom, whether it's like you being pro-choice or you taking the vaccine and all this stuff. Like, I support you. Now, at least she was consistent. I think there's reasons why the abortion thing, isn't the same, but at least I could respect your position. If you're going to take the Judith Jarvis Thompson position of being pro-abortion, and she wrote one of the most famous essays ever. It was in defense of abortion. In defense of abortion, the famous violinist argument is in that essay as an illustration. She's got other illustrations in there too, but the most famous thing that people talk about is the violinist thing. I wonder if she also originated the whole an acorn isn't an oak tree thing, because that's in there too, but I'm not sure if she originated it. But her premise of the entire essay and why she came up with the scenario of the violinist argument is because she believes that no one has a right to your bodily autonomy, even if they will die. Even if they will die. Now, I have written article. I've talked about this, rebutted it. I have a pretty lengthy essay refuting that essay. And the gist of it is our world does not function like that at all. If you really believe that, then you got to throw like, child neglect laws out the books, out the window and stuff, because we expect parents to have obligations to their children. We don't just say you can, if you don't feel like it, you don't have to take them out of their crib and feed them if you don't want to. And that's not even like you purposely deciding to kill them. They need your help. And if you decide that you don't want to help them and you leave them alone for like 7 days or whatever, and they die, you're going to jail. And I have a long article addressing that on my website, blacktnews.com. But you could just look at the pandemic. If you just look at all the things we were willing to do during the pandemic, there's no way that our world actually believes that you cannot impose restrictions on people in the interest of saving life. And by the way, that was a Supreme Court case back in the day, and that's why you can compel vaccines and stuff, because of the interest in protecting human life. So with that same kind of logic, I don't see why you can at least say that abortion really shouldn't be allowed. But these people who claim to be like absolutists, again, she thinks you ought to be able to have 5, 6, 7, 8 many abortions as possible. Don't, is disappointed by her side by being horrified by Lily Allen having that many abortions, because if women want to do it, they ought to be able to do what they want with their body. Again, there's a body inside of their body, so that's the whole conversation. But if you believe that you should be able to do whatever you want with your body, even at the expense of someone else who may be dependent on you, and in this case, someone they're dependent because you brought them into existence, that you have no obligation to them, even as the parent, and you don't have to sustain their life. You don't have to do anything to preserve their life. You can go out of your way. You can go out of your way to make sure their life has ended. How dare you complain about people not wearing their mask correctly and not wanting to get vaxxed or whatever. And again, I so understand it, because she was concerned about her child, at the time. I understand her concern, her being upset and paranoid and whatnot. But every child that is killed in an abortion belongs to someone. And you're okay with all those mothers taking the lives of their children. So I think these folks got to look in the mirror, bruh. I think these people have to take a long, long look in the mirror. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Last week, and I don't have the exact part queued up. Maybe I could find it real quick, but I'm sure you'll take my word for it and you'll believe me. But last week when we were talking about Lily Allen, I talked about it for like 40 minutes. And one thing I was talking about was me believing that if abortion became illegal, that anyone who participates in the abortion should go to jail. And of course, that would mean in many cases, the mother is the abortionist. She should go to jail. And there's people in the pro-life movement like Live Action, Lila Rose, her organization, also Students for Life, Kristen Hawkins, who are totally against that. And they're like, no, these mothers are victims of society, and that's why they've done these things and they believe these things. And the abortionists know, but they don't know. And my response to that is usually, well, isn't everyone at this point a victim of our society and the propaganda and all these mentalities that we've been pushing out for a long time, right? Isn't their abortion doctors who grew up in that propaganda and stuff, like, they know it's human and alive, but if they don't attribute any value to it, what does it matter? Like, these women know that they're pregnant with a child, like a human that's gonna be pop out of their womb and have a social security number like assigned to them and stuff. They know. And a lot of these women have gone through stages of pregnancy or full-term pregnancies and stuff in the past. So I don't know how you can just pretend that they're ignorant all the time. But I mentioned in a kind of like an offhand comment bouncing off of that one thing that they do, because they're like, oh, the women are such victims, but they will just be like, the men though, the men are dogs. The men, oh my gosh, they benefit so much from abortion. The men are trash, and I don't like them. I don't disagree with them. Like, I have a whole saying and a t-shirt that says pro-choice men are sus, right? So because they have an interest in supporting it. That's, I don't think, very noble most of the time. So I get it. I support that, but I don't think it's fair to be like, men are terrible in this situation and women are who could go have the abortion without their boyfriend or husband ever knowing that they're the ones who are these victims. But the guy, if they support it, then they're trash. So I don't like that. I don't like that. So today I saw a video from Live Action and I want to share it because it just was such a perfect example of what I brought up. So give me 1 second while I switch over here to this TikTok video. And again, I love live action. I have such respect for Lila Rose and what they do with the organization. You know how many lives they've saved, how many minds they've changed. I support the passion of these women who work for the organization. I'm mutuals on this account. They follow me, I follow them. You know, I don't think I've met this young woman. I've met other women who are associated with live action. I don't know if they're still employed by them because I haven't seen them do videos for them in a minute. But yeah, I very much have a lot of respect for them. However, this take, I feel like, I don't know. I wonder how open Lila would be to having her mind changed on this. Kristen Hawkins is like really, really aggressive with some of like, we'll say abolitionist views that got to the point where they don't even make sense. But I don't know. I don't know how much of this is philosophical or how much of it's a political tactic, but let me show you guys this video so you know what I'm talking about.
So I was like 18 years old, and me and my friend group were really big Marvel fans. So we went to go see Endgame in theaters, and then I got railed after the movie theater. And then like 5 weeks later, I started to notice that 1 or 2 drinks was making me like hammered. So I knew something was wrong. So I took a pregnancy test. It was positive, and I knew the father was going to be like very chill, very caring. So I called him up. I was like, hey, we got a problem. I was like, this is what just happened. This is what I'm going to do. He was like, right on, babe. I love you.
The fact that we cannot see that it's a massive red flag when a guy is so chill and casual about you getting an abortion is so crazy to me. The reality is her son or daughter, completely unique, unrepeatable human being, was killed because she and some dude wanted to have a fun time after a movie. Sounds like such a good, responsible man. Abortion rights are pro-choice men's rights because they allow men to completely avoid any kind of responsibility. You know how convenient that phone call probably was for that guy? Because yeah, just like it sounds in the story, all he wanted was to use her body for pleasure. And then she calls him to tell him she's pregnant. He probably is like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck with responsibility forever. And she says, don't worry, I'm getting an abortion. He doesn't have to step up. He doesn't have to grow up. He doesn't have to take any kind of responsibility to be a father or a supportive partner to you. He just got a get out of jail free card, and we're calling it supportive. Massive step backwards for women. Your few minutes of sexual pleasure cost the life of your literal son or daughter. And that is tragic, whether or not you want to admit it.
So I agree with everything she said in that video, as far as that boyfriend that she had that she called and was just like, you know, supportive or whatever. And I'm assuming the whole point of, because I didn't go back, I didn't see the original video, so maybe there's more context, or there was I don't know, captions that it was really about a shout out for supportive men for abortion or whatever. But getting through the whole video, I'm just like, how did this whole thing become a bash men video? How did the whole thing? She talked about, we went to go see Avengers, I got railed after. So she maybe she's using him for sexual gratification. Like, oh, he used you. Maybe they're both bad. You know, maybe they genuinely really liked each other or something at the time. I don't know. But she said there's a little problem, and she said, don't worry, I'm going to take care of it. So she already made the decision before he supported. And there's a lot of guys who don't want their girl to get an abortion, but they feel like, what else are they supposed to do anyway? You know, there's some guys who'd be like, please don't do that, and we'll try to fight her on it. You know, we'll cry and even beg, you know, and offer to take custody and raise them alone. But there are some guys who will feel like, okay, might as well just be supportive. Now, it doesn't sound like that's the case. However, I mean, at least not how she's characterizing it. But she's the one, at least according to her narration of the story, who's driving the decision. And they're talking about men being supportive in that role. So he's not coercing her. And I'm not saying that they're saying in this video that he is coercing or whatever. And it's about Like, oh, he's probably so relieved, and oh my gosh, this is what pro-choice men want, no responsibility. But it's clearly what she wanted. It's clearly what she wanted. So I just don't like the attitude of like the women are such victims all the time of the abortion culture and so on and so forth. But there's no compassion for the man when it comes to that. No compassion for the men then. It's, oh, they're driving this. They're they're bad, they're awful. Oh my gosh. Everyone is in the wrong except the mother who calls up the clinic, makes the appointment, gets the pills or has a surgery and kills a child. If she's a victim of the culture, so is he. And I think they both are. That doesn't mean that you don't have any accountability for what happened yesterday. I mentioned the story of the Israelites in the book of Exodus, and how they had to put the lamb's blood on the door and participate, in that because they themselves had sinned. Like they got instruction on how God was going to forgive their sin and deliver them. But the sin that they had committed is that they were in Egypt and they were worshiping other gods. And you could say, well, they were victims of their culture. They were enslaved. Like, how do they have that proper autonomy to decide to just be like, no, we're going to serve, Yahweh and all that. Well, God still thought they were guilty. God still thought that they were guilty, even though that was their culture. Everybody's accountable for their own sin. Everyone's accountable for their own sin. And again, right now, there's no law right now on the books that criminalizes women or anything like that. And I don't believe in, it's unconstitutional to retroactively punish people who've had abortion. So, Lily Allen is an American citizen, but any woman who's been in that situation, who's had one before, you wouldn't be arrested if you had one in the past. It's not constitutional. It's not how it works. But if we did pass a law that said from now on, abortion is murder, like we're writing that into the books, it's murder. You cannot have one. And if you go and you have one, that you're going to go to jail. We're going to arrest you and you're going to have a trial. And if they find you guilty, then you're going to jail. Why would that be so terrible? People have enough sense to understand it's a law. It would be against the law. But they'll say like, oh no, women are too dumb. They're such victims. I don't get it. Joel Berry had a conversation with Russell from Abolitionist Rising about this topic. And he basically went on and said stuff like, well, men are the head and men are, supposed to protect women, et cetera, et cetera. And there's all this kind of failing. And the more he talked, it was like, I know he's trying to be chivalrous and respectful and even protective. But the more he went on, he just sounded so demeaning toward women. Like we're such, I don't know, we're unable to have autonomy, like true, like we can make true decisions on our own. Like it wasn't only me who felt that way. I was looking at different comments and people and other women also felt the same. And it's just interesting that they work so hard to try to protect women that they really make us believe that they think less of us. I was thinking about doing a skit of like a woman deciding whether or not she's going to have an abortion. And then like the pro-abortion lobby is like, no, you can't, you're too weak. You can't do it. You can't raise a family. You can't do this, et cetera, et cetera. And the pro-life movement saying, no, you're strong. You're capable, to make the right decision, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And then she decides to do it. And then, and then the pro-life and then the pro-choice lobby being like, yeah, because you're independent and you're strong and you made your own decisions and all this stuff. And the pro-choice and the pro-life movement going, oh, well, you were a victim of the propaganda. You didn't know any better. Like it's the horseshoe theory. Like they both get to the point where they, make women look really weak and unaccountable for their actions. And I just don't like it. So I needed to vent today. because I saw that, and we just had that conversation on Friday. Again, I love live action. I think they do amazing work, but I'm kind of sick of the men hate. Are it, I'm kind of sick of the men hate. Now there's some men who deserve it. There was that one basketball player who paid his girl to have an abortion, and she's like, "No, I don't want one. I've had one before and I don't like it and it's not good." And he was like, "No, I'm going to get you up with my lawyer or whatever. It's going to be this amount. You're going to have an abortion," and so on. And she ended up doing it and she released like the different texts because she was upset because he had a baby with someone else and they were like celebrating online. And she's like, "Okay, but you made me kill my baby." But she did take the money and she did do it. So he was pressuring her to do it. But at the end of the day, she did make the decision. And plus she knew it was wrong. So he's trash. Don't get me wrong. Like if he is, but she made her decision too. So I don't understand, like, the women are the delicate flowers who are just brainwashed, and the dudes, they like fully know what they're doing. They fully understand it. But I also know it's a tactic as well. It's also a tactic to try to do some kind of, I don't know, reverse psychology sort of thing on the women. Like, these guys don't really respect you. They're using you for sexual gratification, and they're getting out of responsibility. They're not doing it for you. They're using you. Okay, well, they're using the abortion too. And maybe they're using them for sexual gratification. Maybe they're both everybody's using each other and doing things for their own interests. It's not just the guy. Anyway, last thing I want to show you guys is this image that I saw on X a couple days ago. I had posted on Facebook. So if you follow me on Facebook, you've probably seen it already. But this goes into the men hate. I think, of course, there are terrible men who coerce women into abortions, threaten them, and won't support them if they make the right decision, and so on and so on. But there are some men who are absolutely heartbroken when a woman decides to make this choice and they have no say in the matter. Or maybe they do have a say in the matter and they voice their concern, but ultimately it's up to her. And maybe they feel like they can't really fight because it's in her body, and they'll defer. They'll defer instead of defend. So I wanted to show you guys this image here. So there's a little boy playing on the swing, and then his dad playing with him, playing blocks with him and stuff. And then you see that the dad's playing alone. And then you see the woman in a power suit saying, "Let him go. The abortion was months ago." So very powerful image there. Someone had commented on Facebook, they think about what could have been every day. And I just, did like a sad emoji. Like, what do you say to that besides "I'm sorry"? Like, that's terrible. I can't even imagine, it's bad enough when there's a miscarriage and natural causes take your child and you wonder about the life, that was and what could have been as a result if they could have grown. But someone deliberately ending the life of your child and cutting it short like that, it's just really, really tragic, really hard. There's a man who's become a bit of an activist. I don't know his name. I just know his daughter's name, or what he chose to name her, Clementine. And his girlfriend was pretty far along, and she couldn't even pay for the abortion. Then, like, the clinic paid for the abortion, in exchange for them, like, keeping the body of his child. And he says things like, "I wonder, was she beautiful?" And it's just so heartbreaking to hear him talk about his daughter, and to mourn her. I've heard of guys who are devastated thinking about what could have been, that they couldn't stop it from happening, that they have nightmares. There's this one guy, um, and his girlfriend, his ex wanted to get back together with him. He's just like, "You killed my baby. Like, we're not gonna get together. Like, what are you talking about?" And a year ago, I saw one guy talking about how his girlfriend had an abortion and he didn't want her to, and he's just can't look at her the same way, and he's thinking about breaking up with her. And man, the comments, so many people like, well, she's better off without you. Like, how dare you not be supportive? I'm like, she killed his kid. It was his kid too. Like, why is it wrong for him to be upset? Why is it wrong for him to mourn his child? I think I wrote an article about it some time ago about how we are actually very cruel to men. Like, abortion is very cruel to men, to these fathers who mourn these children. But of course, there's comments like this one here: no child will get love was aborted. That's just silly. There's a lot of fathers who would have loved their children. And frankly, and people are pointing out, like, are you saying that women who have abortions like wouldn't love their kids? According to the Turnaway study, which isn't, that has some flaws, but the left quotes it all the time, so I'm going to quote it. They don't like to quote this portion though. 96% of women who are turned away from abortion, like they're going to have one, and for whatever reason they were turned away from abortion, they don't regret not getting an abortion. They don't regret not killing their kids because they form bonds with them and they love them. So if we banned abortion, the likely outcome is that people will have their children and they will love and raise them themselves. I mean, people will still give them up for adoption and stuff. And I think a big chunk of like the 4% or whatever were people who did like put them up for adoption or whatever. But most people will be glad that they didn't kill their children. As a matter of fact, because the study analyzes women up to 5 years, and they found that a third of the women like didn't have regret just like after, I think, a week or whatever, or maybe it was even less than that. But if it's the case that just delaying abortion for these women like a week could be the difference of, oh gosh, I'm really glad I didn't do that, and then raising their kids and loving them. The fact that we have abortion access so readily available is such a disservice, not only to the children, but also to the women, because they could be building a life of love with them. So just a really gross comment. Um um Someone said it's how I felt when she did it, but nobody cared. Someone said, notice how she's at work, even though she's the one who had to go through the process, and he's just sitting there at home doing nothing. Clearly would have been a deadbeat father anyways. How disgusting, man. And someone said, bro imagines about the kid he will never meet. What level of schizophrenia is this? People think about what could have been. People think about what could have been. Matt Hatter said it's all about progressive population control. That's part of it. I saw a video today. Someone asked a woman, like, would you rather keep abortion legal or get rid of homelessness? And she said, oh, that's an interesting question. And she said, well, I think I'd rather keep abortion because I think it could get rid of homelessness. And she's with 2 other guys, and they're just like, what? And one of them, as she went down her explanation, he's just like, that's eugenics, man. But she believed that if you aborted more children, I guess, or the children who are likely to be aborted, I guess, would likely be children who grow up and they're not well taken care of or don't do well in life or whatever, and will end up on the streets. And that's just such a presumptuous answer. But people in the comments were pointing out, okay, if abortion solves homelessness, what is up with California? What's up with California and New York and all kinds of different places where you have legal abortions, but you still have people on the streets? And if you really think that it's a good thing to just not have people be alive who would be homeless, why are you not advocating for just killing homeless people? Like, if you cannot take care of yourself, if you can't afford a home, you know, or some kind of dwelling location, and you are out on the streets, like, we cannot allow you to be on the streets. So if you cannot get this together, then we are going to euthanize you. Why not push for a government policy that does that if you really think that it would be better that these homeless people were dead than alive? Because that's essentially what you're saying. This is essentially what you're saying. But there's a population control aspect of it, you know. Of course, I'm sure you know Margaret Sanger, and which she wasn't even like that crazy about using abortion to do the whole population control. She was like big on birth control and other things like that. But the people who took over Planned Parenthood after her, like Alan Guttmacher and stuff, like they were the ones who were really like pushing abortion pretty hard. But you know, they wanted to control the population of Black people, and well, not just Black people, but like minorities, people who they thought were mentally inferior, and the poor, and so on. And eugenicists were a bigger thing back in the day, but they still exist, and you hear those arguments for sure. But my heart breaks for these men, but it is really sick. Some of the different replies, not just to this comic, but to men who say, you know, I might break up with my girlfriend because she had an abortion and I don't want her to have one. And they're like, oh, you should just support her. But at the same time, I've also heard women, there was a video after Roe v. Wade was overturned on YouTube called The Uncomfortable Conversation. And I hated it. They did not have any like pro-life representation. So it was really wild. But they got to a section where they were talking about men being supportive of their partner. And not only there was a woman who talked about like she wanted them to be supportive, but at the same time, she's kind of like, well, why don't you say like something more, like maybe against it or whatever? Like they wanted it to support her, but they're like, well, dang, why didn't you fight harder? And it's like they want their cake, man, and to eat it too. Like, you know, I understand there's a lot of complicated feelings around these things, but it's a lot of times it feels like men can never get it right. Men can never get it right. I think men, their roles in the family and in society are so very important, and I do think they carry a lot of weight. That's why AOC and Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris, already forgetting her, you know, that's why they pushed different kind of narratives like, oh, well, abortion, you know, rights are really good for men. Like they went out there and flat out pitched that, you know, because they want men to get on that side of the fight and stand beside women and push abortion access. They want them to do that. They know the power of men. But I think a lot of times these men who will stand up for their children and maybe can't save them, just, you know, ignoring their grief, mocking their grief, being furious at their grief. It's so cruel. It's so cruel. And we got to do something to fix this society, y'all. I'm trying to do my part. Hopefully you guys are doing yours too. I know many of you are. Anyway, that is the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because this costs a stream, run my site, all that good stuff. You guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on the site, like the I'm not the victim you're looking for. I got my money, my business shirt, because these people trying to sue the Trump administration for trying to defund Planned Parenthood. I'm like, I thought y'all said abortion was a private thing, and now y'all trying to sue and stop something that Congress passed and Trump signed into law. Like what? So there's stuff like that. I've also got where's my pro-choice men are sus. I do have that shirt and other ones as well. You guys can also check out different books that I write. I do write books. I have 18 altogether that are available. There's a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. That'll bring you to the Amazon page. One of the books that I have is, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. So I encourage you guys to pick that up. I also have a lot of fiction books. Most of my books are fiction. So go ahead and check those out. Tomorrow, just a reminder, I will not be streaming tomorrow or Friday. Let's just make that decision. I'm not going to be streaming the rest of the week because I will be like preparing for an event this weekend, raising money for veterans and their families. It's a very good cause. So I will be setting up and doing all kinds of different stuff. And I hope there actually isn't a thunderstorm on Friday. Oh man, I really hope that to be the case. that weather just like decides to go somewhere else. I don't know, but we'll see. We have it rain or shine, so I hope it's shining. So anyway, God bless you guys, and I guess I will see you on Monday.